And where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Ukraine.
Ah, and you?
France.
From France, okay.
Do you want to start?
Okay. Well, I guess as a child, I was very perceptive, and as a child, I was seeking for something greater, some belonging, looking out into the stars and skies and what is out there. And as a teenager, I said, all right, I believe in every religion. That is it. And it was only later when I was an adult that you realize how meditation is valuable and you seek it out. I was actively in a state where my health required me to get back into my body and to accept the occurrences around me. So Sahadža yoga found its way in a time where I needed to heal.
How old were you when you found it?
When I found it, I was 21 years old. Yeah. And you?
I had a different path. I was born by two Sahaj parents. So I grew up in a Sahaj environment and ashrams. But as a child, of course, it was a bit more difficult for me because I didn't always feel vibrations, cool breeze. So sometimes it was more mechanical. I would just sit down and do it because I was asked to, or because it was what everyone else was doing. But it was only when I had a strong meditation once as a child, and I actually felt it on my hands and on the top of my head, then I decided, okay, this is something that I want to continue experiencing, because once you feel it, you just know that this is the truth and you don't want to step away from it. You experience true joy, true happiness. And after that strong meditation, then I wanted by myself to meditate.
Why do I continue to meditate? That question is just and why do I continue to meditate? I've experienced and I've seen what life would be like without. I can keep it very light, or I can also go quite to the root of it. I had some difficulties in life, and I've seen people who have the same difficulties, and what had become of them were the confusions that they go through in the suffering of that. And seeing that was quite a shock each time. That this is the mirror, because people are reflections of what could be as well. And at that point, I'd already encountered Sahadža yoga, and so I just I clung onto it. I hung onto it, not only because in that moment I needed it. Well, actually, no, because in that moment I needed it. But as you then kind of continue, and you not only do it because you need it, but because it actually uncovers real beauty inside of you. It uncovers such a joy and lightness that you don't need to carry around all the heaviness and all the suffering from before, all that confusion, but just enjoy the simple things in life. That is why I continue to meditate, to enjoy the simplicity in life. Yeah. And to be with the collective. It's great. It's one big family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's very similar as well. I'm someone who thinks a lot, so for me, I meditate because it's a need to be in the present and enjoy the moment, and let go of the past, of my thoughts, of what happened during the day, and also what is going to happen tomorrow, later in the future. So it's really to enjoy and live the moment inside, appreciate my Kundalini, appreciate myself. And of course, when you meditate collectively, then you experience something even stronger. You experience other people's view on meditation, how they do it. And sometimes you feel more vibrations. So of course, collective meditation is something that is a must for everyone.
Collective meditation just lifts you up. The other day I was at the Molino, at the hangar, and I was really, my physical body was tired because we work at the school and, you know, we've been doing a lot of preparation for the arts academy. But as soon as I stepped into the room, even though my physical body was tired, I felt physically lifted. I felt it was elevated just because of the vibrations around. So the collectivity helps to sustain you in that way. I also realized that collectivity doesn't necessarily mean to be physically present, but it means to, how can we become collective on a more subtle level? That's something that I'm learning, and I'm only learning that because we live in an ashram, because I see someone who appears not to be collective, but is very collective inside. And that is really beautiful, to be very collective from the heart and vibrate on the vibrational level, to know exactly what that person needs at that moment in time. That's real support, collectivity support. And where I felt the most bhakti, the most expression of devotion come out when we're in collectivity.
You also feel cared of, because other people, when you live in an ashram, for example, like we're doing now in Chantrasi, other people can feel your vibrations, and when you're going through something, even if you don't speak about it, they can help you, they can meditate with you, even without saying what the problem is. They can really work on you, and you just feel so much love and care that you have to grow.
Yeah.
I don't want to think too much about it, but for me, spiritual growth is just when you overcome a difficulty. For example, let's say in the morning, as you live in an ashram, you don't like when people wake you up making a lot of noise. You know, this is a difficulty you have, and it's a difficulty you can overcome by communicating or just putting it aside and not putting too much attention on it. So for me, spiritual growth is a bit like this. You identify your weaknesses or things you need to work on. You face it instead of putting it away or putting it down. And then you raise a little bit, your level raises. And of course, then another difficulty comes. And then you realize one day that you manage to go through so many different stages, like a child growing up, basically. And when you look back, you realize, okay, now I grew, I can do these things, I can face these things. I'm not the same person anymore. I feel more vibrations. That for me is spiritual growth.
Yeah, as these questions come up and you're talking about it, I feel a lot of heart. So I guess what I'm growing through right now, as it's still happening, I'm growing through actually opening that space up more, to trust, to be an expression of love, because there is obviously a lot of things around us in the world that may be the opposite, and if we can just add a seed of that, or we can behave in a certain way that just shows the values or the essence or some kind of reflection of Shri Mataji's teachings that we have imbibed, that we can then share with the world, I think that would be truly amazing. So spiritual growth for me at the moment, the challenge is to bring love into the action, because we're in the world, as I said, that can be quite harsh sometimes, and I have lived that as well. So to bring love into that side, to discipline with love, working at a school, so disciplining with love, to when you're cleaning, let's say we were just cleaning, to not think of that as an action, but to do it from love. That's my area of growth at the moment, because I really feel, with this question, I feel the heart a lot. I feel with Kundalini is something that, as someone who's come into Sahadža yoga later in life, it is something that we must learn to trust, because she really is there, and she really does look after and sustain. And our meditations can be very mechanical and be very mental if, you know, like, okay, put your right hand here and then there, and attention, and, you know, but actually to surrender to our Kundalini is to know that she does everything at the end of the day. So the relationship to Kundalini, or how I experience the Kundalini within me, is only if I'm at the point of surrendering. Now I have to get there. Yeah.
Kundalini for me is a lot like a mother. A mother, sometimes you struggle to feel her love, you don't want to face whatever it is you're going through, but she's always there, whether you recognize it or not, she is there. And she helps you identify what you can work on to improve. And when you feel her, when you allow her to work through you without thinking too much, then this is when you can really feel that Kundalini, and you understand that you cannot describe it, you feel it. It's really a caring energy which connects you to God. For me, thoughtless awareness is when you just let go. You let go of your thoughts, of your conditionings, you just stop thinking. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. You don't reach thoughtless awareness every day. But it's when you really surrender everything, your meditation, your day, your problems, to that all-pervading power, and you allow it to work through you without thinking too much, without doing all the movements you need to, or saying 1,000 mantras. You just let it go, and then you can feel it, that peace, that silence, which is not like sleeping, where it's like you are thoughtless, but you are here, you're in the moment, you're in the present, and yeah, you really feel connected.
Yeah, at first it was a bit difficult to answer, because as you asked that question, you kind of get into that state, and I was trying to think, what is thoughtless awareness? Well, that's the opposite, I guess. It is a blessing. Thoughtless awareness is a blessing, because I feel in that state you are allowed to be in the presence of Shri Mataji and of the divine. You are there, and you come as you are. I don't know, I cannot answer what thoughtless awareness is, because it's just a blessing to be there, a blessing to be connected, a blessing.